Hey, welcome back to the podcast. How are you? I am so happy to be back in this chair. And I'm really going to come in with a hot and quick message for you today because I want to be your constant reminder of this. I have been thinking so much about my purpose as a coach and my purpose here on earth. And I think that one of my favorite jobs as a coach and as a friend and as a wife and as a mom and a daughter and a sister and a cousin and all the things that I get to be in this life, which is just so fun to even think of all those roles that I get to play on the regular. Because as soon as I do that, I immediately imagine all of the humans that I get to do this life with. And that includes so many of you. And I'm just so thankful for that because every single one of those roles allows me to connect with people that I love and adore and respect and admire. And that's just such a fun thought. Um, but I was talking to a client the other day, and we were talking about she is like steps. And when I say steps, I mean like a few decisions away from leaving her full-time job to pursue a new business full-time. And what's so cool about this client is that she has created this new business on the side of her full-time job, and it's already moving quickly enough that she's ready to dedicate a serious amount of time and energy and even some money into this new adventure. And so we are kind of talking through her fears and her thoughts and just kind of where she's at and what she's exploring right now as she walks towards this decision. And of course, when we're walking towards any decision, I want you to be honest about what fears are coming up because you guys, if we don't honor the fears that feel real to our systems, if we try to just skip over them, they're going to stay where they are and they're going to keep rearing their heads over time. And so I'm always like, of course, you have fear. You are about to create change in your life. You guys know, like, our world has evolved. Our brains have not. And so our brains want nothing more than for us to stay the same and to stay stuck because change feels scary to our very, very primal brains. Fear is normal. And I even say, you guys, like, fear has a seat at my table because if I don't let it have a seat at my table, that means I'm pretending it's not under the table when it is. So fear has a seat at my table. Being scared, being fearful when you are about to create change, big or small, in your life is so normal. And so I say fear has a seat at my table, but fear doesn't have the seat that's at the head of my table. And it certainly doesn't get to have the loudest voice at my table. But I always want to know, like, what are you afraid of? And as we explored this conversation, she said, I'm afraid of it not working. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about it not working for a minute. Because again, if we don't honor the fear, it's going to keep showing up in the background. And if we don't honor it and talk to it and thank it for being here because it's trying to keep us safe and maybe even work through it and figure out what we're actually afraid of underneath that surface level fear, it's going to keep coming through. So let's talk about what we're afraid of. So if you are considering making a change in your life of any kind, in your health, in your marriage, in your finances, in your family, in your work, I want you to walk this process with me. Like, what are you afraid of? And so when I asked her, I said, what are you afraid of? And she said, I'm afraid of it not working. I'm afraid of this new business venture. Like, I'm so excited about it and it feels like it's really working right now, but I'm afraid of it not working. And I'm like, okay, what happens if it doesn't work? And she said, well, I would feel embarrassed and I would feel uncomfortable and I would probably feel like a failure. And I'm like, okay, let's meet those feelings. Let's meet those potential feelings with so much compassion because so often what we're actually afraid of is a feeling. And so we talked through these things. We talked through what it feels like to be embarrassed because we are primal beings, and primal beings automatically care about what other people think because our survival used to depend on people liking us and people seeing us and people choosing us. Thankfully, in 2026, that is no longer the case, but that doesn't mean that our brains don't still think that in order to survive, we have to be loved and liked and accepted by the people around us. And so the thought of being embarrassed for our very primal brains is very, very scary. And so we walked through why we're so afraid of that, of course. But have we felt embarrassment before? Yes, of course. And did we survive that? Yes, of course. And so we talked through these feelings of embarrassment and discomfort and failure. Right. And I'm like, so she ends up saying, like, I can really survive that. And I'm like, okay, great. So what else are you afraid of? And she said, I'm afraid that it's going to fail. Like, I'm afraid that the business isn't going to work. And I said, okay, so what happens if it doesn't work? Like, what's worst case scenario? And she said, then I would just go back to my job. I would go get a job. And I'm like, okay, so essentially what you're telling me is that you are currently living in your worst case scenario, working full time in your job, which you know you could find another version of, is what you're doing right now. And so, what you're telling me is what you're afraid of is having to work full time in a job. And so, what you're also telling me is that you're living in your worst case scenario. And she was like, holy shit. Right? Because you guys, so often, what we're actually afraid of is the starting point, which is right where we're at right now. If what we're going after doesn't work, most likely we might just end up right back where we started. And of course, I would say with a bunch of lessons and a bunch of growth, because when we create change and we go after big, scary things, we evolve and we become different versions of ourselves. And so I'm like, it's even better. Worst case scenario is even better because no matter what, you are going to learn, you are going to grow, you are going to experience new and different things. And so your worst case scenario is your current circumstances, but better because you will have learned and grown through this experience. And she was like, oh my God, you're right. I'm actually living in my worst case scenario right now. And I'm like, you know why it's so easy for me to access that? Is because I walked this exact same path when I started my coaching business. Before I started my coaching business, I was working full time with my husband building our real estate portfolio. We were flipping houses, we were buying rentals, we were investing in other projects, and I was managing a good portion of the business. And it was fun and it was honestly amazing, but it was his passion and it wasn't mine. And I decided when I hit that point in my mid 30s where I wanted to feel much happier and more fulfilled than I decided that I was ready to start walking towards my purpose and my passion. And so I made the decision to walk away from our real estate business and leave that to him while I walked towards starting this online business and becoming a coach and putting myself out there and offering to help people. And you better bet your ass, my brain showed up so loud with so much fear. My brain was honestly like, what the hell are you thinking? Who do you think you are? I think I was 37 years old at that point. Who do you think you are to start over at this point? Put yourself out there with the possibility of so much rejection. My primal brain showed up so loud with so much fear. And I can laugh now because I remember thoughts like, what are you doing? Like, this could be the most humiliating thing you ever do. Why can't you just love picking out paint colors? Why can't you just love knocking down walls and doing like the HGTV thing for life with your husband? Why can't you just love that? This could be a passion. We could fall in love with this. And I just couldn't get rid of this nudge, this knowing that I was meant to be doing this work that I get to do now day in and day out. But damn, if my brain didn't show up and try to stop me at all costs, because my primal brain was so fearful that I was going to fall flat on my face. Thankfully, I had a coach at the same time that I was walking towards this, because I now have had a coach for 7 years straight and will never not have a coach. I always say, I hope I have a coach until I die, because that means someone else's eyes and ears are on my brain that is still a primal functioning brain. and is always going to show up with fear and probably some limiting thoughts. I always want someone helping me unpack that. So I had a coach who walked me through something similar. She said, "What are you afraid of?" And I said, "I'm afraid of failing." And she says, "Well, what happens if you fail?" And I had two thoughts, you guys. The first one was, I'm not going to fail. Like, I am here until it works. I was so determined and unconditionally committed to bringing this business to life that I was pretty sure, even though my brain was trying to show up and keep me safe, that I was here until it works. But I still allowed myself to walk down this same path of like, okay, say it doesn't work. Say online coaching just disappears or it just never becomes something successful for me. I'm like, then I can always go back and be a part of our real estate investment company. So at the time, I was living in my worst case scenario. And so if I fell on my face with this coaching business, I could always go back and walk alongside Dan and continue to build this real estate business and continue to pick out paint colors and continue to knock down walls and all the things that were my favorite things to do in the business. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, let's fucking go. Because if I'm living in worst case scenario and this is as bad as it's going to get, then let's go. Like, I am walking towards this. And I stumbled and I was messy and I took action and I put myself out there and it felt uncomfortable and it felt hard. But damn, 5 years later, I am literally living not just my dream life, but I exist in my dream business every single day. And so this is the part that I want to walk you to also is sure, we can walk down worst case scenario. And I actually think it's a helpful process to walk. I think that worst case scenario is an okay place to visit so that you can show yourself what you're actually afraid of and you can show yourself that you're going to survive it. But let's not stay there. After you do that and you show your brain, okay, I see what you're afraid of. Thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I know I'm going to be okay even if that happens. It might be a little uncomfortable, right? I might fail. It might not work. I might be embarrassed, but I'm going to be okay. And once you walk that path and survive it, what I really want you to do is go cozy up with best case scenario, because our minds are so powerful that if you can imagine worst case and you can go experience it and show yourself that you're going to survive it, you can also imagine best case and go cozy up with it and go be in the experience of it and go be in the energy of it. Because once we understand that law of attraction and manifestation really starts from the place that we are vibrating, the energetic state that we are existing in. If we are existing in the imagination of our best case scenario, which means we are spending time there, we are visualizing it, we are imagining how it's going to look and feel, we are connecting with the energy of the version of ourselves who has created this outcome. You connect with that every morning and you go walk into that change. You go walk into that business or that health or that marriage or whatever it is. From that energetic state, you are so much more likely to create that outcome. So we walk down the path of fear and we honor it and we thank it because our brain is trying so hard to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us from feelings of rejection and embarrassment or failure or any of those things. Go show your brain that you're going to survive it, but then get your ass over to best case scenario and go be in the vibration of the version of you that has created that outcome and walk into your days as her. So once I did this with my client, I'm like, okay, we visited worst case scenario. We know now that worst case is you go back to working full time. What's best case scenario? She freaking lit up. Watching her talk about bringing her dream all the way to life, existing in her weeks. We actually walked through a week's time in her best case scenario and we wrote it all out and she made all of these notes and she connected deeply with the feelings that she would be in if that was true. And I said, then your only job every single day is to connect with this, to get cozy with this version of you that has this outcome and go walk into your days with her belief, with her feelings, in her energy, and watch the results show up. Do we have to take action? Yes. Like, we don't just think happy thoughts, visualize it, and put our hands out and wait for things to show up. No, when we're being the version of us that has the result, she's taking action. Like, that's what I want you guys to see is like, manifestation isn't just put your dreams out there and then just sit and wait. Manifestation requires action. It requires movement. But the version of you that has what she wants is so fucking willing to move towards it because she knows how it feels to have it. That's the magic. That's the power of the law of attraction and manifestation and all of this woo stuff. And honestly, believing this and shifting my energy into those beliefs is what has created the life and the business and the marriage and all the things that I exist in right now, as I've connected so deeply with the version of me that has those things. And so I want you to let yourself go down the path of fear for a minute, but I want you to invest way more time, 10x, 100x, way more time connecting with best case scenario and the version of you that has that outcome, because that's where the magic is. That's where your power lies, is seeing how those feelings that she would exist in are already true and available to you and walking through your days in that energy. And again, watching this client walk me through her week of her ideal week in this business and what she would be doing and how she would be showing up and what she would be believing and how she would be feeling. And I'm like, just go be her now, right? It's not fake it until you make it. It's go be her now. Go be the version of you that you are so clearly connected to, because this is alignment. This is integrity with your highest self. When you get viscerally excited, like I do when I talk about coaching, when you get viscerally excited about the outcome, where you can feel it in your soul, you can feel it in your bones, you are already connected to her. You don't have to become something else. Just go be her. Right? Ugh, this stuff fires me up so much, because watching this client walk this path was absolute magic. And this is accessible to all of us. This is accessible to anyone that is walking towards something new and different. So exist in best case scenario and go walk through your days as her. And trust that if you are being nudged towards something different, if you know there's something more, that is calling you up and in to that next vibration, that next season of your life, right? And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, you guys, like, this is the exact work that we are going to be doing inside the Vibe. If you own a business, if you are starting a business, this room is for you. We are going to expand you. We are going to expand your capacity. We are going to show you what's possible in your life and in your business. You are going to be surrounded by the most incredible women who are doing this work, who are building really incredible things in the world, but who are also really interested in having lives outside of their businesses that are fulfilling and aligned, right? I don't call it balance, because I don't think that we are balancing two things that aren't connected. I think your life and everything that is connected to you is all related. And when those things are in alignment, when they are working for and with one another, your life, your relationships, your family, your friendships, your finances, your business, when those things are in alignment, when you are in integrity with you, all of those things are an extension of you, and they all work together to create a beautiful life. And it all starts with where you're vibrating, hence the word, the vibe. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. If this hit home for you, I would so love it if you would leave a review or share with a friend. It is so helpful to me when you do that. I would also love to hear from you. If this hit a chord for you, please reach out and tell me. I would love to hear from you. And of course, if you want to jump in the Vibe, we start next week. Our first call is on Tuesday, March 3rd. We have a couple of spots left. If you are interested, reach out to me. I would love to chat. I would love to have you in this room. It's going to be absolute magic. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.